Good morning.
Good morning.
We'll get started. Welcome to the 355th meeting of the Baltimore Regional Transportation Board. This meeting is being recorded. If anyone online should experience difficulties during the meeting, please send a message in the chat box. At this time, I'll ask Ms. Rebecca Debo to start the roll call to determine member participation. Rebecca, can you start?
Sure. Annapolis.
Present.
Thank you. Anne Arundel County.
Present.
Baltimore City.
Present.
Baltimore County.
Present.
Carroll County. Harford County.
Here.
Howard County. Queen Anne's County.
Here.
MDOT.
Here.
Annapolis Transit. And the MTA.
Present.
Maryland Department of Environment.
Here.
Maryland Department of Planning.
Here.
FHWA.
Here.
Did I miss anyone? Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. Our first item is the approval of the minutes from the June 27th BRTB meeting. Has everyone had a chance to review these minutes? And if so, can I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes?
I motion to approve the minutes.
Baltimore City motion to approve.
Queen Anne's County will second.
Queen Anne second. We will now vote on approval of the minutes. When your name is read, please indicate A or nay. Rebecca, can you do the roll call, please?
Anne Arundel County.
Aye.
Baltimore City.
Aye.
Baltimore County.
Aye.
Carroll County. Harford County.
Aye.
Howard County. Queen Anne's County.
Aye.
MDOT.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, the minutes are approved. Next item on the agenda is public participation opportunity. We'll now offer the public a chance to speak to the board. If anyone has comments on either action item, please wait for that item to be discussed. Mr. Lane, did you get any comments in advance?
Madam Chair, we did not receive any comments prior to the meeting.
Okay, so is there anyone else who wishes to address the board at this time? If so, please indicate in the chat box to let us know if you're here in the room.
Madam Chair, there are a number of members of the public who would like to speak during action item number 1, but no one is requesting to speak during the general public participation opportunity online. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak during the general public participation opportunity? I hear none, Madam Chair.
All righty, so then we'll move to the report on public comments. So we'll now ask Ms. Monica Haynes Becerra to present the report on any public involvement activity. Monica?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay.
So on June 20th, we had a comment period on the draft long-range transportation plan, Resilience 2050, adapting to the challenges of tomorrow, and the short-range transportation improvement program and the Air Quality Conformity Determination. On June 20th, the comment period for those documents closed. And during the comment period, we had over 4,800 people visit the project website, and that yielded over 120 comments being shared from individuals as well as organizations, coalitions, and other stakeholder groups. The comments that we received reflect positive sentiment towards investments in transit, bicycle, and pedestrian infrastructure, and negative sentiment towards investments in roadways. Another significant object of negative sentiment was air quality and climate change. And the BRTB is very appreciative of the effort of so many individuals and organizations who've gone through to review the materials. All the comments were shared with BRTB members and who reviewed and responded to all those comments And those responses to comments can be seen at publicinput.com/resilience2050. And additional details about the comment period and the comments that were shared will be shared during the action item. If you have any questions, please let me know.
All right. We will now ask for a report from the joint meeting of the technical committee and the interagency consultation group. Ms. Ann Marshall, can you please present the report for us today?
Sure.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody. For those that don't know, I'm Anna Marshall. I'm the environmental planner here. I will provide a report from the Joint Technical Committee and ICG meeting from July 5th. First, the Technical Committee and the ICG voted to approve the minutes from their respective meetings, and both minutes were unanimously approved by their members. Next, Mr. Gallahue stated the slate of officers that were selected for the Technical Committee, which consists of MDOT for chair and Baltimore County for vice chair. He also welcomed the new members on the Technical Committee, Stu Storota for Baltimore City and Claire Stewart for Carroll County. And ICG welcomed a new member also, Ms. Sophia Cortazzo representing MDOT. Next, BMC staff presented resolution number 24-1, which was regarding approval of Resilience 2050, the 2024 to 2027 TIP, and the associated Air Quality Conformity Determination. All members from both committees voted to recommend approval of the resolution. Next, Ms. Aris presented information about resolution 24-2, which is the Metropolitan Planning Rule. Make sure all planning processes are carried out by the state and MPO in accordance with applicable requirements. And the TED committee voted to recommend approval of that resolution. Following those action items, Ms. Kelsey Cisco from MDE presented about the 2022 Clean Air Progress Report and shared updates about regulations and policies that have helped improve Maryland's air quality, as well as ones on the horizon. And in 2022, Maryland recorded the fewest number of bad ozone days ever in a year, with only 3 exceedance days. And the Secretary of MDE said that for the first time ever, Maryland is measuring levels of air pollution that meet all ambient air quality standards. And this is very exciting because the Baltimore region is currently in non-attainment for the 2015 ozone standard. And finally, Mr. Robert Berger from BMC presented about the Maryland Travel Survey, specifically about a study of travel by paratransit in the region. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Ann. We'll now do our consideration of our resolutions. Mr. Lane, can you please introduce the first action item?
Madam Chair. Madam Chair and members, today the BRTB is being asked to consider resolution 24-1, approving the long-range plan known as Resilience 2050, the fiscal year 2024 to 2027 Transportation Improvement Program, and the corresponding conformity determination of the TIP and long-range plan. There will be a presentation by staff, followed by motion from the board and then discussion. Mr. Zach Kaufman is going to begin the presentation, followed by Mr. Keith Kucharek, and then Ms. Anna Marshall. Zach, would you like to start?
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
So beginning with the LRTP Resilience 2050, we've been engaged in a nearly 2-year process with you all for planning the updated LRTP, beginning with what are our guiding principles for the region considered through the regional transportation goals and associated, implementation strategies considered and adopted in November of 2021. We also looked at how should we prioritize investments through an updated and improved project scoring methodology, also adopted in November of 2021. For long-range planning, obviously, it's important to look at what the future might bring forecasts of population, households, and employment through 2050 are utilized both in project selection as well as to analyze the potential effects of projects in the draft preferred alternative. These were adopted via the round 10 socioeconomic forecast in July of last year. We also include extensive writing on regional growth, demographic trends, and various transportation-related factors and trends in the document itself. As you all know, Resilience 2050 must be fiscally constrained by revenues we anticipate to be available. So we worked with MDOT as well as local jurisdictions to generate forecasts of local, state, and federal revenues anticipated to be available through 2050. Those were adopted in January of 2023. We also look at how we measure progress through a series of resolutions adopting the federally mandated performance measures and targets. Those were adopted throughout the 2-year planning process and are detailed further in the system performance report in Chapter 5. Obviously, project submittals, scoring, and estimation of the potential costs of those projects is a key element that was conducted mostly last year and all ultimately led up to the selection of a draft preferred alternative, which was presented to the Tech Committee in January with that fiscal constraint line based on project scores, project costs, what can be afforded, what cannot be afforded. Ultimately, 56 of the 62 roadway projects that were submitted and all 36 transit projects that were submitted were selected for the preferred alternative. The preferred alternative also includes set-aside funding for regional priority bicycle and pedestrian projects, as well as other strategies intended to improve air quality. That's followed by a series of analyses of the draft preferred alternative, air quality conformity modeling, travel demand modeling, environmental justice analyses, identification of environmental mitigation strategies, and comparison with the strategic highway network. That was all conducted earlier this winter and spring, ultimately leading up to the formal public comment period held from May 17th through June 20th. We also had an informal public comment period on the Resilience 2050 white papers last year into this year. So just a few highlights of what we think we're doing better. We made some improvements to the project scoring methodology, including doubling the points allocated to safety to reflect its importance as a regional goal. We added transit scoring criteria to several criteria where it had been absent. We sought to make scoring less subjective, clarify how points were going to be assigned in cases where it was unclear, and transition to more outcomes-based scoring using the travel demand model in some cases. And we also integrated points regarding impacts to low income and minority populations into most scoring criteria. We released a series of 11 white papers. Obviously, the LRTP is a fairly long, involved document. So we released 11 white papers to break down LRTP topics into more digestible chunks over most of 22 into early this year. We also added a consistent methodology for forecasting local funding. We always work with MDOT for a state and federal financial forecast, but we hadn't had a consistent method for identifying local revenues available for transportation. We worked with a consultant and with local jurisdiction staff last year to develop that local forecasting tool for local funds, and we can improve and replicate that for future LRTPs. So we do have the local forecast, but most projects in Resilience 2050 are anticipated to rely on state and federal funding. And so the chart here might be a little hard to see, but shows state and federal funding for the 3 prior LRTPs through to Resilience 2050. Resilience 2050 state and federal forecast includes $37 billion for operating, $21 billion for system preservation, as well as $12 billion for system expansion. And so most projects submitted compete for that $12 billion in expansion funding. But one trend that we're seeing, though total funding is going up, we're seeing increases in the share dedicated to system preservation and associated decreases in the share dedicated to expansion. System preservation has increased from about 21% in the 2011 LRTP to 30% in Resilience 2050. At the same time, expansion has decreased from 26 to 17%. So, if these trends continue, as we anticipate they might, we're going to have more and more funding dedicated to operations and preservation and less funding available to expand the transportation network. So changes draft to final, we made some, minor reviewing corrections, updates. We also have a full layout file of Appendix C that's the appendix that deals with the potential effects of projects. That had all been available for the public comment period, but is now fully laid out. It's kind of one of the later items since we're doing travel demand modeling and whatnot. In response to public comment, we added the full scope of policy and technical scores to Appendix B. Previously, we had showed the combined rolled up policy and technical scores, but we've broken that down into their component parts. That's online now and will be added to Appendix B for the final. We also added a description of advanced air mobility in response to public comment. That is related to guidance by FAA for MPOs, and that's included in Chapter 3 of the document. All right, in terms of next steps today, obviously you all are considering adoption of the final LRTP. We anticipate transmitting that to federal agencies for review and approval by FHWA, FTA, and EPA. And over the coming years, looking to follow the plan from our guiding principles, goals, strategies, performance measures, targets to implementation of specific projects. But knowing that nothing is written, it's a flexible plan, it's a living document, it can be amended, and it will be updated in 4 years. So that's the summary of the LRTP, and Keith Kuchar will summarize the Transportation Improvement Program.
Thank you, Zach. As Zach mentioned, I'll be presenting the TIP portion of Resolution 24-1. The 2024 to 2027 TIP contains 143 projects. 13 of those are new this year, including 3 in Anne Arundel County, 5 in Baltimore City, 4 in Harford County, and 1 in Howard County. Additionally, there's 3 other projects that were in previous TIPs that had dropped out for various reasons, but they are now back into the TIP. Of those 143 projects add up to just over $4.24 billion in funding. And that includes $2.89 billion in federal funds and $1.35 billion in state and local funds. The projects in the TIP support long-range goals such as safety, prosperity and economic opportunity, and environmental responsibility. As with the long-range plan, the TIP is fiscally constrained and cannot exceed funds which are available from state, local, and federal sources. So just to give you a kind of a big picture of funding over the years, this slide shows the 2024 to 2027 TIP has about $9 million more program than the 2023 to 2026. But as you can see in this chart, funding in the TIP has remained fairly consistent over the years, ranging from about $4.1 billion in 2022, being the low mark, and then $4.4 billion in 2021 as the high mark. So this slide is a breakdown of funding in the TIP with state and local funding shown in orange and federal funding shown in blue. As expected, the Maryland Department of Transportation State Highway Administration has the largest portion of funds with just over $1.9 billion. The next largest source is the Maryland Transit Administration with just under $1 billion. It should be noted too that the $1 billion does not include the vast majority of the MTA operating funds, which are state funds only. The Maryland Transportation Authority, shown in the teal color, or I guess that's what that is, accounts for about $636 million. And then locally sponsored projects account for about $451 million. And finally, the Maryland Port Administration has about $250 million programmed, and the bulk of that money is for the Howard Street Tunnel, which is about 194 of that $250 million. There are 9 categories of funding in the TIP. This graphic shows a breakdown of those categories. Highway preservation funds account for nearly 42% of all the spending, followed by highway capacity at about 22%. Transit preservation is next at roughly 19%. Emission reduction strategy is next at about 6%. Ports has a little over 5.7%. And again, most of that is the Howard Street Tunnel. And then there's smaller amounts in emission reduction strategies, commuter rail, preservation, and so on, that account for the remaining funds. MTA utilizes the public participation process for our TIP to meet the Federal Transit Administration's public participation requirements. So we include a breakdown of MTA funding in the TIP, and we break it down by funding category. The largest category is by far section 5307C, which are capital requests in urbanized areas, and those are used for things such as bus purchases, bus replacements, preventive maintenance, and that accounts for about $397 million of the MTA's $900+ million. The next largest category is section 5337. Those are state of good repair funds. That includes preventive maintenance and mark improvements, and that accounts for about $284 million. Congestion mitigation and air quality, or CMAQ funds, make up about a third of, they make up the third largest category at $182 million. And this is for projects that are aimed at reducing emissions and improving air quality. Next slide. The TIP summarizes the anticipated impact of TIP investments towards achievement of performance measure goals and targets. This requirement was first reflected in 2020 to 2023 TIP as a result of MAP 21 legislation. MAP 21 required MPOs to adopt and track 25 performance measures, including transit asset management, transit safety, highway safety, traffic congestion, and several others. This legislation was subsequently strengthened in the FAST Act and the IIJA legislation. And this approach will help to improve methods to connect TIP investments with their impact on performance measures and targets. So I'd like to take just a couple minutes to highlight some of the major projects and some of the new projects that are in this year's TIP. The Multimodal Transportation Center in Parole. This is located at the Westfield Mall and will handle transfers between local and regional bus service and allow more docking area to serve both of those. This is programmed at $3 million in the TIP with a total cost of $17 million. That project is expected to be operational in 2026. The West North Avenue Pedestrian Safety Improvement Project from Mount Royal Avenue to Hilton Street in Baltimore City will upgrade sidewalks to be ADA compliant, add new pedestrian signals, crosswalks, lighting, drainage improvements, and landscape improvements. This is programmed at $11 million. In Howard County, funding has been included for the Patapsco Regional Greenway, Elk Ridge to Guinness Open Gate Brewery. This will complete a 1.5 mile segment of the overall 40-mile greenway. And this project includes a 10 to 12 foot wide hard surface trail with a 290-foot boardwalk over sensitive wetland areas. In Baltimore County, I-795 Dolefield Road interchange will construct a $149 million interchange at Dolefield Boulevard and will widen I-795 from Owings Mills Boulevard to Franklin Boulevard. This project will provide improved access to the planned growth along the Red Run Boulevard corridor in Owings Mills. The Maryland Port Administration has included the Masonville Cove Connector shared use path in this year's TIP. This trail along Frankfurt Avenue between Hanover Street and Masonville Cove will provide public access to Masonville Cove and connect over 20 miles of existing and planned trails. That's MDOT MTA continues to upgrade the Eastern Bus Facility as an electric bus division. Construction is anticipated to be completed on that project in 2026 and has a cost of about $162 million to complete that. MDTA has a project along I-95 northbound to extend express toll lanes from just north of White Marsh Boulevard to north of Maryland 24 in Harford County. This project will also reconstruct interchanges at Maryland 152 or Mountain Road and the interchange at Maryland 24. TIP funding for this project is a total of $630 million, and that will be mostly toll revenues funding that project. This project is being done in phases, with some of those phases have already been complete, but the total completion for all the phases is expected in 2027. And if anybody wants to take a look at any of those projects closer, I have slides later if you wanted to look at them. But for now, I'm just going to go ahead and turn this over to Anna Marshall, our environmental planner, to discuss the air quality conformity.
Thanks, Keith. So the purpose of the air quality conformity analysis is to ensure that the LRTP and the TIP as part of Resilience 2050 do not worsen air quality in the region or delay the attainment of the national ambient air quality standards as set by EPA. And it is required that estimated emissions from the proposed projects as a whole do not exceed the motor vehicle emissions budgets in the State Air Quality Implementation Plan, or SIP. And it also ties together transportation planning and air quality planning. Currently, the Baltimore region is designated as non-attainment for the 2015 ozone max, which is set at 70 parts per billion. And as a result, in our regional emissions analysis, the precursors of ozone, which are nitrogen oxides or NOx, and volatile organic compounds or VOCs, were modeled for on-road vehicles, including cars, trucks, buses, motorcycles, and idling trucks. 5 horizon years were modeled with the existing transportation network and proposed TIP and plan projects, including 2023, 2025, 2035, 2045, and 2050, which is the final year of the LRTP. And for both pollutants in all analyzed years, the emissions were estimated to be below the SIP budgets. And some milestones. So here is a summary of the conformity analysis process in coordination with reviewing agencies. So coordination with ICG and MDE confirmed the methodology and conformity exemption status of each project. And BMC and MDE staff independently ran the modeling analysis, and both came up with the same results, which led ICG to approve the regional emissions analysis for public review. And then finally, on July 5th, ICG and technical committee members voted to recommend approval of the conformity document.
So continuing on with a summary of the public comment period, we advertised for the comment period, which was held from May 17th to June 20th, 13 print, radio, and digital outlets, estimated a minimum of 166,000 impressions digitally, potential reach of 1 million impressions through paid promotion. We also obviously pushed it through our social media channels, distributed local media kits to local jurisdictions so that they could advertise their meetings and whatnot. We also had a fair amount of earned media in WBAL, WYPR, Maryland Matters, as well as some other outlets. Looking at public meetings and materials, publicinput.com served as our online project hub, a central portal for information and commenting, summaries of the documents, pre-recorded presentations, story map, interactive mapping, draft documents, as well as ways to comment. We also held one virtual meeting as well as 7 in-person public meetings that many of you were involved with, ultimately receiving over 100 comments from individuals and various stakeholder organizations. So first off, we want to say that, you know, there were a lot of really thoughtful comments. People showed deep engagement with documents. These are long documents. We tried to summarize them and provide information that was understandable in every way that we could, but you know, we really appreciate the time that people took to look at the documents and to comment. Some main themes did emerge. Negative sentiment towards the scale of roadway expansion in the preferred alternative, both in terms of number of projects and amount of expenditures. Concerns with implications of those expenditures for climate change, land use and sprawl, air quality and public health. On the other hand, there was positive sentiment towards transit expansion, transit reliability, as well as increased bicycle and pedestrian expenditures. All comments were shared with you all, with tech committee members, with ICG members, and we coordinated with you, with various agencies, depending on the comment, on responses. And likewise, we want to thank you all for, you know, reading through the comments and for responding thoughtfully. All the comments and responses are currently posted online at resilience2050.com. They'll also be included in full in the appendices of the TIP, the LRTP, and the Air Quality Conformity Determination. All right, so that concludes the summary of the documents for Resolution 24-1.
Thank you, Zach. With that, Madam Chair, we do ask the BRTB to consider action item 24-1. The process would be asking for a first and a second. Then what we would be doing is asking for any questions from board members, and then we will be going through the public comment period. I'll turn it back to you.
Yeah, so Zach, Keith, and Ann, thank you so much. Those were great presentations. So I now ask our member to move for approval of the resolution in a second. Do I have a motion?
I'll move.
And that. And a second?
Second.
Harper County second. Okay, we will now ask any BRTB member if they have any questions or comments on the resolutions, and I'll take a moment to say that I think that they were great presentations. The outreach that we were able to do was very extensive to collect those public comments. I can appreciate the fact that we've added additional transit scoring criteria as a part of this, because it's so important to what we do every day. And the improvement of the project scoring, again, I think was an added benefit this year. So any other comments from BRTB members?
I'd echo that. I'd like to see the safety component added as well.
I would like to say that very impressive with the 11 white paper the BMC staff have been produced, and the focus on the major topics of the long-range transportation plan, and we have very detailed explanation and very informative.
Mm-hmm. Any board members online, any comments? All right, so we'll now ask if any member of the public has any questions or comments on the resolution. For those online, let me remind you, please indicate if you'd like to speak in the chat box. Mr. Lane, has any member signed up to speak?
Yes, Madam Chair, we have a number of members of the public who have requested to speak. Again, what we would like to do, as was mentioned, is if you are online and you would like to speak and you have not previously indicated that you would like to speak, please say so in the chat so that we can get you in line. Also, if you are in the audience today and would like to speak, please indicate so. What we'll do is we'll go through the first members who have asked to speak online. They start off with a member of the public named Josh. We don't have his last name. We ask that he speak, give that to us while he speaks. Following that will be Michael Sapaniak and Tyler Crow, and we will start running through these. We do ask members of the public who are representing organizations to try to limit their comments to 5 minutes and individuals to 3 minutes so that we can get through the whole list. So if we could speak, Josh, and Josh, could you unmute yourself and indicate your name so that we can have it for the minutes?
Good morning. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Fantastic. My name is Joshua Spokes. I'm a resident of Baltimore City and a member of Strong Towns Baltimore. I appreciate you all taking the time to review this and give me a moment to speak. Starting out, I'd like to highlight one of the first things that the gentleman who went over the Resilience 2050 said, which is the fact that currently we are increasing our level of expenditure for highway preservation and highway operations incredibly large amount over the past 20 years, and that this could end up squeezing future capital projects. As we continue to expand highways, they are costing us more money than they are making the region. And so that is leaving smaller and smaller amounts for capital projects, including highway expansions, and especially things that are truly important for improving the region, like transit plans. I'd also like to highlight the fact that overwhelmingly the public comment was in favor of decreasing the amount of highway expansion and increasing the amount of transit and bike expansion. And yet I've seen almost no change in the Resilience 2050 plan just after the public comment period in response to that. Baltimore as a region we're not just a city. We are in a company that is in competition with other cities in the region. We're competing with DC, we're competing with Philadelphia, New York, Boston, for companies, for talent, for people. And if Baltimore doesn't catch up, begin to spend disproportionately to catch up in terms of transit funding, in terms of bike funding, you're going to fall behind, or really we're already behind. We're already 20 to 40 years behind, depending on what city we're comparing with. And if we don't begin to spend disproportionately towards transit and bike and pedestrian infrastructure, we are just going to continue to fall behind. And so I believe that the Baltimore Regional Transit Board should table this and take more time to consider public comments and reconsider its spending, its capital expenditures to increase the amount of transit, pedestrian, and bike infrastructure funding over the next 25 years, shift some of the $7 billion allotted to highway expansion towards the only $5 billion or so that is currently allotted towards transit and pedestrian bike funding. We need to begin disproportionately spending towards things that reduce modal use of cars in order to achieve air quality goals, in order to achieve higher livability in the region, and in order to ensure that in the future we're able to maintain our system. If we continue expanding highways, we're just going to continue increasing the amount of preservation costs, and that is an unsustainable method of going about planning a region. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Michael Stepaniak. He represents Strong Towns Baltimore. Michael?
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, I'm from Strong Towns Baltimore. I live in Cockeysville. Name is Michael Stepaniak. I'm the lead author of that big 10-page comment that you received. So, you know, the BRTB, they asked for public comments on the long-range transportation plan, and they got them. And the document capturing the summary of public comments and the BRT's responses is 84 pages long. So by our count, somewhere between 89% and 95% of those comments are, to put it plainly, pro-transit and anti-cars. The BRTB keeps celebrating that all of the candidate transit projects were included in this LRTP. And I agree that that's a good thing, but it really just isn't enough. Echoing what Josh said, you know, you can't expect an A for effort. You're not being graded on a curve. Anyone who looks beyond the feel-good marketing message will see that 58% of the project dollars are being steered towards roadways. Transit and active transportation projects, they're still being relegated to second-class status. It's not as distant as second-class status, but it's still second class. The last major transit expansion in the Baltimore region was, I believe, the double tracking of the light rail, and that was nearly 20 years ago, I believe. Since then, the system has been in a state, it's been in stasis. Given that history, a 42% share isn't impressive. It's not enough. It is not transformative or game-changing. A plan that does not move the needle in terms of vehicle miles traveled or non-automobile mode share is not transformative. Give us a plan that significantly decreases the former and increases the latter, both by 20%. The message being delivered to the BRTB by the 100 plus comments submitted is clear. Take the funds earmarked for roadway expansions and steer them to more transit and active transportation projects. Propose more of those projects and approve more of those projects. To move forward with the plan as currently constituted is tantamount to ignoring the will of the public. The plan does not serve us, and if the public servants compromising the BRTB move forward with it, neither do they. So please do not make a mockery of our efforts. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Again, we have speakers who have signed up online. After we get through the speakers who have signed up online, we'll turn to the audience to make sure that we give everyone a chance to speak. Next, we have Tyler Crow. Tyler, and following that will be Jed Weeks from Baltimore. Tyler? Tyler, we can see you. Can't hear you. Could you unmute yourself? Let us see if we can unmute you from here. Hold on one second.
It indicates he's having a microphone problem.
Oh, okay. Tyler, why don't we come back to you and see if you're able to fix that. We'll get you back in line here in a little bit, okay? So let's move forward if we could. Jed Weeks from Baltimore. Jed, are you available to speak?
Yep, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Great, good morning. This is Jed Weeks from Baltimore, Baltimore City's Livable Streets Advocacy Organization. We provided detailed written comments that frankly were ignored and will almost certainly reflect those said by others in comment today, so I'm just going to keep this brief. As a former member of the BRTB PAC, I've seen years of TIPs and LRTPs ignore public comment from early input through comment periods to votes on resolutions. When we brought this pattern of practice to the attention of the BRTB through the PAC and proposed policy changes that would result in a more equitable investment, the PAC was disbanded. Today, we have before us a TIP and an LRTP that continue the status quo of investment in sprawl-inducing highway widening, increasing vehicle miles traveled, and causing no change in transit ridership. It does so against nearly every comment provided by the public, which asks for a wholly opposite investment strategy. We're in a climate crisis. For Baltimore City in particular, adoption of this TIP and the long-term plan will cement our city and region into investments that prevent it from meeting the mayor's climate action plan. A vote for these plans by Baltimore City is a vote against our mayor's own stated policy agenda. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. I see Tyler is joining back up again. Tyler, let's give you 1 second to whether or not your microphone works this time.
Thank you so much. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Great. Many thanks to you all for allowing me the opportunity to speak. My name is Tyler Crow. I was born in Baltimore, raised in Ellicott City, and currently live in the southwest neighborhood of Violetville. I've always worked in Washington and have deep personal experience of driving, walking, and using mass transit in our region. No doubt, public transportation and MARC connections to Washington is a key part of the reason why I continue to live here. Access to transit is also anecdotally a key reason why many of my friends have chosen to live in central Baltimore City over Washington, D.C., a trend that has only increased as we work from home. Much of my experience using Maryland's mass transit system has been positive, but others, for instance, sitting on a broken down MTA bus on 29, in my case, belie a fundamental systemic disinvestment in public transit in the state of Maryland. As I look into the Resilience 2050 plan, it is clear that you all have a different view of not just conditions on the ground, but vision for how our region can and should grow. I recognize at the outset that Resilience 2050 projects were evaluated and chosen based on the applications that were received. However, the plan seems to, in principle, fail to fairly address public transit. For one, baseline timeframes for accessibility by both automobile and transit are not measured in the same way. The plan should ensure that both be measured at 30 minutes. I am disappointed that despite claims this plan encourages sustainability, equity, and economic growth, transit travel times will remain 2 to 4 times higher than automobile travel times. This is even with the preferred alternative mentioned in nearly every BRTB public comment response. Finally, I am particularly disappointed at the lack of vision in how multimodal transportation options can attract innovative businesses and talent. Let's face it, where do innovative businesses locate? Oftentimes they prefer dense cities, places where their employees can live and move without much trouble. The Baltimore region has many benefits that it might capitalize on to attract these businesses and talent. The Resilience 2050 plan, however, seeks to assume that our region's future will be one of singular car trips, working in office parks, and drives to far-flung stores. In my view, it is not only a future that people want, it is a future that we cannot afford. As officials charged with thinking through how transportation supports the Baltimore region's economy, it was my hope that you would have thought more strategically about what this economy would look like. I feel Resilience 2050 misses the mark and would benefit from future review in line with your stated goals and principles. I welcome the opportunity to speak. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have a Mr. James Pizzurro. I apologize if I am mispronouncing your name. Could you unmute yourself, please?
You got that right. Thank you. Good morning. My name is James Pizzurro. I'm a resident of Towson in Baltimore County. I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to speak with regards to Resilience 2050 and the TIP, and to your staff for carefully responding to all the public comments you received. By my count, there were at least 28 pro-bike comments, 0 anti-bike comments, 55 pro-transit comments, 3 anti-transit comments, 5 pro-roads comments, and 42 anti-road comments. So we're maybe choosing anti and pro a little generally, but I think the sentiment there is clear. You heard earlier this morning from your staff who corroborate the general sentiments from the public, and yet Resilience 2050 and the TIP don't accurately reflect these general sentiments, as I believe some other speakers have mentioned. And instead really sign this region up for decades of disproportionately more highway spending than towards any other mode, despite knowing the damage that these projects will have on the fiscal and environmental health of our communities. In particular, I want to point out number 10 from the summary of public comments and BRTB responses document, which I think starts on page 63, maybe 64. Several comments in here, but number 10 explicitly asks for an explanation as to how the preferred alternative will not induce additional demand for future highway road expansions. And, I think there is an excuse in there that sort of the modeling doesn't fully account for induced demand, but that doesn't mean that your organization can't readily admit the existence of induced demand as an observed phenomenon that's been studied. And also, recognition that should be reflected in every decision that your organization makes regarding highway expansion. Because in the meantime, without adequate data, but despite knowing that highway expansion won't solve this region's traffic and congestion problems, you are definitely signing this region up for more of the same poor outcomes. And relatedly, suggesting that things like continued highway expansion won't worsen air quality in the region is pretty ridiculous, given the known realities of how making driving easier and faster means more people will drive, which will absolutely worsen air quality. And that is even considering things like electric cars, autonomous vehicles. Really, I want to come away with at least one, I think, substantive proposal that would, get us moving in the right direction. A very simple change, I think, in the grand scheme of things, is to change the LRTP to include a new funding allocation specifically for complete streets projects. I think that would be a sign of good faith here. And again, just a small step in the right direction. Just a region-wide project line item, similar to updating Mark's rolling stock. I think that could, again, just go a little bit of a way towards what we're talking about here. Something to continue adding line items to the other side of this equation and not just in the highway side of this equation. I'll summarize. You heard from your staff this morning, this body's made significant progress in how it scores projects, particularly transit projects, but they really haven't disclosed that this progress isn't fast enough. And we have a long way to go to making Baltimore a truly resilient region. Residents have resoundingly provided you feedback to corroborate these sentiments, but kindly thanking them for their comments isn't enough. In the meantime, given fixed capital budgets, expanding highways at the cost of everything else, our health, our communities, is not a solution, but rather ensures that this region will continue to be part of the problem. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you for those online. I know we have some others who have requested to speak online, but let's take a moment to go to members of the public in the room and see if there's any members of the public who would like to address the board from the room. Let's go up here to the front, please. Please come up to the table, introduce yourself, and please try to remember, 3 minutes for individuals, 5 minutes for members or representatives of organizations, so we could get back. Meanwhile, those online, if you would like to speak, please sign up in the chat. Please go ahead, sir.
Thank you very much. My name's Iyab Worku. I'm living in Owings Mills in Baltimore County. First, I just want to state I took public transit to get here to this meeting in the first place. I took the metro from Owings Mills Station down to Lexington Market and took the bus 94 bus from there to around here. And frequency of bus service continues to be disappointing. To get to Owings Mill Station in the first place, I didn't even consider taking the bus. I just drove there because parking is so ample around there, and bus service is every half hour, maybe. And I had to wait over 20 minutes at Lexington Market to take the bus down here, which was a good chunk of my travel time, just standing there waiting for the bus. And I really have to emphasize how important frequency is in bus service. It's the difference between a 10-minute wait and a 20-minute wait is substantial. And the difference between a 20-minute wait and a 40-minute wait is, it can barely be properly expressed. One is a system you can actually rely on to use for neighborhood travel or to make important connections that you really have to be on time for. And the other one is something you endure, something you use because you have no other choice. And I think we can do better than that. I also have a more general question. I was looking through the comments of the Resilience 2050 report online, and I saw a casual mention of trolley buses that got me into a little bit of a rabbit hole. And I was wondering why they weren't more fully considered by the board. In particular, modern trolley buses with in-motion charging and a small battery on board have performance that is and cost quite competitive with battery electric buses. They can be used, a single bus can be used in 24/7 operation because they don't need a idle for charging. The need for catenary lines is dramatically reduced because of those smaller onboard batteries, meaning you don't need to put them for a substantial portion of the route of the bus, and they can, if they get dewired, they can compensate pretty easily. And also, but most importantly, there's a dramatic reduction in the use of rare earth metals in the utilization of these buses. So I just wanted to know why there wasn't a little bit more attention given to them in the Resilience 2050 report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I saw some other hands. Mr. Norton, would you like to come up and speak to the board? Sure. Representing CMTA.
Good morning. My name's Eric Norton, Director of Policy and Programs with the Central Maryland Transportation Alliance. I think I might be a familiar face for some folks. Apologies. Probably seen me and heard me before. The Transportation Alliance is a nonprofit that advocates for improving and expanding transportation options for the people and businesses of Greater Baltimore. You've seen our comment letter, I hope, that was signed on by other organizations. We've also been commenting on the TIP for the last 3 or 4 years, along similar veins. You've heard it all before. I usually come to these, prepared with my 2 minutes of well-crafted testimony that's going to convince you all to, our point of view, and things will change. But that hasn't ever happened. A comment letter we've written that we spent, time on reading through these plans, crafting our comments and submitting, hasn't resulted in any substantial changes to any of these plans. They're pretty much the same every year. The TIP, you saw the chart of all the different categories. The one category you didn't see was transit capacity, $0, again, for I think the 4th year in a row. And so, yeah, I think I just want to echo pretty much every other comment you've heard today, and a lot of the comments that you've received, and sort of in getting to the point of just wondering when things will change, and what else you need to hear, I think, from the public to change these plans and programs. And I think, you know, it feels like we're getting a lot of like heavy comments and sort of like scolding and chiding, and that feels very negative. And that can be kind of like disheartening. But I think, you know, we can have a positive vision for the future. You know, I think when we all go to other places, you know, we go travel internationally or nationally, and we stay in other places and we experience their transit systems and their walkable, livable streets that are, you know, humans scaled. And we come back and we tell our friends and family about how great it is. Don't we want that to be here too? Don't we want that to be Baltimore? You know, people to come visit here and have that experience? You know, it can be a positive vision we want. You know, the Orioles are in first place in the American League East right now. Good things can change. Like, yeah, you know, it's been like 30 years, but things can change. Like, positive things can happen. Yeah, it was probably like the mid-90s. It was like you said, when the light rail was built, was back when, you know, the Orioles were good. You know, we haven't built any new transit capacity in 30 years. But we've been continually, you know, widening highways for those 30 years. So, like, you know, I think the commenters were saying, you know, if we're in a race, I was trying to think of a good analogy for this. If we're in a race, somebody's got a 30-year head start, saying, okay, well, from now on, we're going to have a balanced investment program. You're never going to catch up if it's balanced from here on out, because somebody else has a 30-year head start. You know, we've had a 30-year moratorium on transit capacity. So how about a radical idea of a 30-year moratorium on highway capacity? It sounds crazy, but we just did it with transit for 30 years. You know, maybe it's not so crazy after all. Maybe if we spend all that money on building out our transit system, we've got a Central Maryland Regional Transit Plan. We know we've got capital needs that need to be funded. We just had the subway breakdown for, you know, 5 days again a couple weeks ago. The light rails constantly disabled, trains, alerts. We know what the needs are. We know where the money can be spent. Active transportation, biking, walking, we've got lots of plans out there. We just need to put the money into it. And I think the money's there if we have the right priorities. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Norton. Yes, would you please come up, introduce yourself, and again, please, we do have other people who'd like to speak online. So always like to remind people, please try to.
My name is David House. I would just like to say I tried to take the bus here, but decided to drive because it would take me 12 minutes versus an hour. I live in the city, and I think in the richest nation in the world and one of the richest states in the world, I think that's a travesty. We don't need wider roads. We need more transit.
We do have some members who would like to speak online. Is there anyone else in the room who would like to speak? Okay, let's go back to online. Chris, your last name begins with a G. I do not want to try to mispronounce your last name. Chris, could you please?
It's a hard one. Yes. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Awesome. Yeah, this is Chris Gwinnett. I live in the Hamden neighborhood of Baltimore. And I just wanted to say, I wanted to agree with one of the last speakers that transit can be a great experience. You know, I've recently had a trip to Stuttgart, Germany, where transit was such a great experience. You didn't have to go by the schedule. You know, you went to a stop and you realized a bus would come or a train would come about every 5 minutes. People talk about the independence of driving in America, but if we fund transit with the appropriate amounts, we can have independence of mobility just via walking, via transit here in America as well. There's no reason that the European model cannot be realized in our dense cities, certainly. And I also wanted to say that, even in America, youth are exceedingly not buying cars due to both the financial burden and concerns about the climate crisis. And we see Baltimore continuing to bleed population. And I believe that's because it's a city without mobility and without access to prosperity for a lot of its citizens due to the excessive bus time that people have mentioned before and the unreliability of the buses. And there are only two rail options. Baltimore, I believe, will continue to bleed population if people driving through the neighborhoods are given more priority than people who live in those exact neighborhoods. I honestly would encourage more of the board to regularly use Baltimore area transit. In fact, I would love it if there were a requirement for people in charge of transit to use it. I think that's the only real way people will come to understand the situation at hand. And another startling fact is the reason that Baltimore City students are late to class, like 70% of them are late because of the unreliability of the buses that they have to take to class. That's staggering. So I would highly encourage the board to model the ridership and to model what's going to happen based on what the infrastructure changes encourage. You've already seen that it's going to increase vehicle miles traveled and keep transit ridership the same. That is unacceptable. And what we build will make people come. It's not, I highly discourage using low ridership metrics on the existing unreliable, infrequent systems as reason to not fund transit as well. Just to close out, I encourage tabling the current proposal to work on more transit cyclability and walkability in the metro area because it is desperately needed. Thank you.
Chris. Mr. Will Fetter.
Hi, my name is Will Fetter. I live in the city, and I live in North Roland Park, like Lake and Roland Avenue, at that intersection. Now, I'm at the beach right now, but if I were not, I would have taken the bus down, and then I would not have been able to take the bus back because it stops running between 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. Now, I was looking at your short-term plans, hoping, hey, maybe there's something in here that might have anything at all to do with me being able to, have more reliable transportation, but there isn't. And it's like, I want to echo what somebody else said before, which is that, this 30-year moratorium on transit expansion is that all these knock-on effects, and you're just not doing the bare minimum. We're just not there. We're not even particularly close to it. But perhaps you could get there with the, somewhere in that $6 billion for highway expansion. You could find, a few dollars here and there to help build more bus lanes, build more other things like that to improve capacity. Now, I will say, I wanted to add on to what James Pizzurro said about induced demand in the modeling. Maybe you could change the scoring methodology for your technical project scores to reduce the weight given to those projections, because I noticed it's one of the highest categories, but maybe if you could knock a couple points off to reflect that uncertainty, that would help bring things more in line with where we need to be. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Fetter. Again, if there's anyone else who'd like to speak online, please indicate so on the chat. Ms. Anna Ellis indicated she did not want to speak, but she wanted to echo the words of previous speakers. Is there anyone else in the room who would like to speak before the board? Give just a second for members to indicate in the chat if they would like to speak. And not seeing anyone else who would like to speak, staff would like to thank all of the members of the public who have reviewed and commented. As Zach has said, this is not an easy read, these documents. They have a lot of jargon. We've tried to distill them as much as possible. Again, this plan is updated every 4 years. We like to remind everyone that this is a living plan. Amendments can be done to this plan. It's been in development for the past 2 years through this process. Staff like to remind you that it is an important program to at least get into place the improvements that have been made over the last 4-year document. It was approved in 2019. We understand there is frustration in members of the public, not making progress towards improving our transit system and our bicycle pedestrian system fast enough. But we do feel that this is a good step in the right direction. This plan does have twice as many transit projects and twice as many dollars for system expansion on the transit side as the plan that is currently in place that was adopted back in 2019. Adoption of this plan will allow certain projects to at least move forward, including the Red Line. The plan itself also includes a number of other transit projects, most of which were not in the last plan. It includes the north-south transit corridor that's being studied by MTA. It includes express bus service and microtransit service in Anne Arundel County, 17 transit hubs across the region, and proposed BRT systems in Anne Arundel and Howard counties. This plan also, beyond the expansion funds that have been set aside, also include specific preservation funds for fully funding the MTA zero emission bus transition plan, fleet replacements on the light rail system and the MARC rolling stock. It also includes very important projects in the city, including the West Baltimore United Reconnecting Communities project and setting aside funding to allow the Hanover Street bridge improvements to move forward. The plan also includes major complete streets projects such as the Druid Park Lake Drive and Russell Street projects. There has been $280 million set aside in this plan for bicycle, pedestrian, and complete streets projects. That is up from $108 million in the last long-range plan. So again, we understand the public's frustration in the pace of trying to move forward transit and bicycle pedestrian improvements here in the planning documents, but we do feel that this is a step forward. We think it's an important step to actually get it in place so that we can get some of these major projects to be able to move forward, and then take the next couple of years to look at generating new transit and bicycle pedestrian projects. As we mentioned, amendments always happen to these plans. We update the TIP annually, so working with our partners around the table, I know everyone around here is also working to try to generate new projects moving forward. So we asked the board to consider resolution 24-1, adopting the long-range transportation plan known as Resilience 2050, the fiscal year 2024 to 2027 transportation improvement program, and the air quality documents associated with both of these plans. I'll turn it back to the chair.
So members, with that, when Rebecca reads your name, please indicate A or nay. Rebecca?
Annapolis. Anne Arundel County.
Yay.
Baltimore City.
Yay.
I don't think, I think Eric said yay for Anne Arundel County. He's City of Annapolis.
Sorry, what was it?
Okay.
Yeah, I missed my turn, but it's a yay.
Okay. So for Anne Arundel County, I just want to echo thank you to the staff for all of their work on this. And I want to say thank you to the public for all of their substantive comments as well. I will be voting aye in support.
Thank you. Baltimore County.
A.
Carroll County. Hartford County.
Yeah.
Howard County.
I'd just like to echo what Sam said about the comments. I really do appreciate the public taking the time to do this. We are trying to build advocacy for transit within Howard County. And I'll continue to lean on those of you that are speaking for the region to help me out in Howard County so I can do that. It's good to see a Howard County resident here listening to all this. But this is a big plan. I think the comments this time are not in vain. They help set us up for continued discussions at the Regional Transit Commission level, because we will at the local level have a voice in transit planning and decisions in the real time and advocacy right in there with the state. We have a new administration and there was legislation passed on transportation needs coming up, and that commission is getting staffed up and looking at MDOT that's where the real change happens. I know this is a long range plan. I know this is supposed to be the bellwether and the benchmark, but these things take time to change. I'm a year 30 about in my transportation career in the state. I know it's frustrating to see things taking a long time. To Eric's comment about 30 years of no expansion, it would have been 15. There was work on it, and then it stopped, and we're about 12 years behind. So bear with us as we reboot here and have a new secretary and new governor to change these things. As Todd said, it can be changed, and we don't have to wait for 4 years. Thank you. I will vote aye.
Thank you. Queen Anne's County,
Aye.
MDOT,
I guess I can't resist making my comments as well. Again, we do appreciate all the comments from the citizens. We do take them seriously. As Bruce said, there is a new governor, there is a new secretary that I work for. There is a lot of work trying to move the ship. There is a lot of time that it takes to develop everything from bike ped projects, complete streets, transit projects. It takes time. You can't just build a transit system in a year and it's done. We are trying to move the ship. You will see a draft CTP come out September 1st that will look different than the final CTP that was approved by the legislature this past session. It will not be everything that everybody wants, but it will again be a move towards there. And we will continue our work. The Transportation Revenue and Infrastructure Commission that Bruce referred to is being geared up. We are expecting meetings to start this summer. All of these things that people want will take money. Just moving money from highways to transit is not going to be the answer. There is a lot of issues in terms of state funding and what we have available and what we can do. We're doing what we can, and I think you will appreciate the movement, and we will be working for at least the next 4 years, if not 8, with this administration to get where we want to be. And MDOT votes aye.
thank you. And I just want to go back to Baltimore City. I want to make sure that I didn't miss anything. Baltimore City, what was your vote, please?
It was aye.
Okay, thank you so much. Did I miss anyone? Thanks again.
And again, we would like to thank the members of the public, both online and those that have shown up today and throughout the entire planning process. As we had mentioned, this is a living document, so we would like your continued support, your continued advocacy, and again, the members of the board do hear your comments. Thank you. Madam Chair.
Thank you all for your comments. The resolution has passed. Mr. Lane, can you introduce the next resolution, please?
Yes. Okay. Next resolution, Madam Chair, is resolution 24-2. It is the self-certification of the regional transportation planning process. Today, the BRTB is being asked to consider this resolution again for the self-certification of the regional transportation planning process, followed in developing the unified planning program, work program, the transportation improvement program, and other transportation plans and programs. I'm going to give you a short summary of this required process through our federal work program. Again, this metropolitan planning rule that again was generated indicates that all transportation management areas, those are over a population of 200,000, need to certify that their planning process is being carried out not only by the state but also by the MPO in accordance with all applicable requirements. We normally do this concurrent with the submittal of any proposed transportation improvement program to our federal partners at Federal Highway Administration and Federal Transit Administration. So what are these requirements? Again, we have to follow the Metropolitan Planning Rule. We have to follow the Clean Air Act. That's why you saw conformity documents associated with the Long Range Plan and Transportation Improvement Program. We have non-discrimination programs, both in General Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the American with Disabilities Act of 1990. We also include non-discrimination programs for the aging, for gender, disabilities, including the Rehabilitation Act of 1973, and the involvement of disadvantaged business enterprise programs that we adopt a new goal and do reporting with every adoption of our Unified Planning Work Program, and through our work programs here at BMC with the Equal Employment Opportunity Act. So how do we document these requirements? So we have an attachment to the resolution that kind of documents all the different activities that we undergo on your behalf for the Metropolitan Planning Organization. These include activities within our Unified Planning Work Program, and work, employment, contracting, and procurement that goes through your agent as the Baltimore Metropolitan Council. We also have some changes. As was mentioned by a member of the public recently, we've transitioned the Public Advisory Committee to the Transportation Core Program to try to involve more people across the region and try to make it a little bit more interactive. We have, as shown within the presentations, tried to adopt all of the required performance-based planning and programming requirements that are done through the Metropolitan Planning Rule. We also reference the budget for the Unified Planning Program and the disadvantaged business enterprise goal and the reporting that we do. And then it also references our planning documents, including the Transportation Improvement Program, the Air Quality Program, and then our long range plan that was just adopted, Resilience 2050. Other changes include references to the date of 2050, the plan that was just adopted, including the final set of 11 white papers, the development of an advertising plan to support public involvement. This again is to try to generate interest within the public that we just saw in terms of comments for the long range plan and the TIP. We've approved an updated financial forecast based upon new federal forecasts from the Infrastructure Act. And then also, we've also adopted our new local financial forecasting to try to better document the amount of dollars that local jurisdictions put into the program that are sometimes hard to see within both the regional program and then also the state program. We know that a lot of your local governments have large transportation budgets, and we need to kind of recognize those within the program. We've updated our public participation plan, including new outreach efforts, and we've also updated our limited English proficiency plan, including items that we translate into different languages for our different planning documents. With that, we will turn it back to the board and ask the BRTB to consider resolution 24-2.
Thank you, Mr. Lang, and I ask for a member to move for approval of the resolution in a second.
Our motions to approve.
Second.
Our motions to approve and Baltimore City seconds. We now ask if any member, does any BRTB member have any questions or comments on this particular resolution? Hearing none, I'll ask if any public, any member of the public has any questions or comments on the resolution. If so, could you indicate so in the chat, if not in the room?
Madam Chair, we do have members of the public who have requested to speak in the chat box. We will start with Michael Spanik. Michael?
Yes, so with regards to the certification, I do appreciate all of the steps that the BRT has taken as of late. I think the public input portal is fantastic. I'm actually a member of the Transportation Core. I have found that to be quite disappointing. It has not surfaced any unique or special input opportunities that are any different from what I've been able to submit as a non-transportation core member. On the other hand, the updates to the public participation plan, I made comments on them and they were readily incorporated. So there, on a surface level, there's definitely steps being taken. But the bottom line is that you've had all of these comments, both written and today, and it was a straight down the line vote for the plan. And what I have been told in the past is that there is a precedent for this plan to be delayed, tabled, modified, what have you. And that did not happen in any way, shape, or form today. So I find, I just feel that the federal certification and guidance, it requires real consideration of public input, to seriously consider that input. So for this plan to be summarily approved without any kind of modification, I don't feel that you are fulfilling the requirements of the federal certification requirements. I don't feel like you have met the bar. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Madam Chair, we have Mr. Jed Weeks, who would like to speak online regarding action item 24-2. Jed?
Thank you. Jed Weeks again from Baltimore. This comment is related to my frustrations with the total disregard of public input in voting on the previous resolution. Continued self-certification of the BRTB without any adjustment of board policy or board action in light of that public comment is really unfortunate. I'd propose that the self-certification voting be deferred until the BRTB can present how they intend to not just receive, but actually incorporate public comment into their decision-making processes, giving that public input the quote explicit consideration required under the Metropolitan Planning Rule. It's my belief that continued self-certification while ignoring public comment is going to lead to formal protest during federal certification review. Thank you.
Thank you. We have another hand up. Will, are you requesting to speak during this action item? Okay, we still have a hand up from Will. I do not hear him. Is there any members of the public in the audience who would like to speak regarding action item 24-2? With that, Madam Chair, again, we've heard members of the public who were, expressed concern about, the adoption of the long-range plan and the TIP, and would like to see the board kind of generate more projects. I know we've talked as members of the board that we are, looking forward to kind of new proposals, coming forward. This is a plan that can and could be amended at any time moving forward. This plan at least gets in place the processes so that major projects such as the Red Line can move forward. And I know that's one of the areas of expediency that we want to make sure that major projects that aren't in the previous long-range plan can now move forward and as they are adopted into this long-range plan. But there's still frustration from members of the public that they would like to see more changes in the planning process. But again, we feel that the planning process, again, takes into account members of the public's comments. We hear their comments and we work with the board to try to make amendments moving forward as new planning projects are coming online. So we do ask the board to consider self-certification of the process as a requirement of the MPO process.
So as the chair of the board and the vice chair, you heard the vice chair mention a few minutes ago in terms of us understanding the comments that have come in. I think it's important for us to say on record that the board hears the public, but we also don't want to slow down the process of other long-term projects that we feel can go into this project that we've been waiting for 12, 15 years to move forward at this point. So I just have to echo that it's important that you all know that we hear your comments as the board, and we're not ignoring your comments, and that's why we've asked for certain criteria, transit criteria to be added as we're looking at things like this, and that we're also concerned because we've waited for so long for a large transit project that is right on the cusp of being able to move forward. Again, we have a new administration in office, we have a new secretary in office. I think that we have the ability to see some things different as it relates to transit than what we've seen previously. And I think we have to give the administration an opportunity to fulfill that at this point. So with that, I'm gonna ask the members, when Rebecca calls your name, unless you all have any comments, when Rebecca calls your name, please indicate A or nay for your vote.
Annapolis,
Yay.
I'm sorry,
Aye.
thank you. Anne Arundel County,
Aye.
Baltimore City,
Aye.
Baltimore County,
Aye.
Carroll County, Hartford County,
Aye.
Howard County,
Aye.
Queen Anne's County,
Aye.
and MDOT.
Aye.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, we now have an informational item, a member from Howard County who is going to do a presentation for us. Today, Mr. Chris Etal of Howard County will present on their nationally recognized complete streets policy. We turn it back over to Chris.
Good morning.
Oops, sorry, let me share the screen.
Thanks for the opportunity this morning. I'm Chris Esoff with Howard County Office of Transportation, the Bicycle Pedestrian Coordinator. My administrator is Bruce Gartner. Was asked to come and give an update on Howard County's complete streets journey. Sorry. Click. Little graphic here to show a timeline of our complete streets journey in Howard County. Really got started in 2016. That's when we passed our bicycle master plan, our first bicycle master plan. And in that, there was a section that promoted and recommended that the county also adopt a complete streets policy. So that was really the catalyst. We were able to adopt that complete streets policy in 2019 after about a year of work developing that policy. And then a big follow-up item for that policy was to develop updates to our Howard County Design Manual. That's our road guidance document for engineers. So we were updating that and updated that in 2022, and we renamed it the Complete Streets Design Manual. This was all supported with a lot of advocacy in Howard County, in particular the Streets for All in Howard County group, notably the Horizon Foundation and the Bicycle Advocates of Howard County group, which is called Bike HOCO. They provided a lot of advocacy both to initiate and through this whole process. They were involved with the whole process and were members of the implementation teams. So just to jump back to when we were developing our policy, we started out with a plan to really look to best practices. And the way to look at best practices in the United States for complete streets is through Smart Growth America's Complete Streets Coalition. They have a framework for developing complete streets policies that basically gives an outline of all the factors and all the categories and all the boxes to check if you want to develop a really high quality complete streets policy. So we looked to that and we had a plan to follow that. When I was a youth playing sports, my father always told me if you want to be successful in any kind of game or sport, first thing is know the rules and know the scoring system. So we followed this scoring system and the plan worked. Because earlier this year, they announced the scores for the top complete streets policies in the country. And Howard County was #1 with a score of 100 out of 100. So,
It's a county, not a city at the top of that.
yes, not a whole lot of counties in the list, lots of cities, but Howard County #1. This scoring used to be an annual process. They took a couple of years of hiatus due to COVID. So this was actually 3 years worth of scores, 3 years worth of jurisdictions that had policies to be scored, and it was the first time that any jurisdiction has received a score of 100. This just shows the categories that go into the scoring system. Again, we knew this going in to develop our policy. We followed this framework, this blueprint. This is available for anybody to use from the Smart Growth America Complete Streets Coalition. And the categories and the scoring in each category there, obviously we scored top score in each category, but it's to establish commitment and vision, to prioritize underinvested and undeserved communities. The policy must apply to all projects and phases. It must allow only for clear exceptions. It must mandate coordination. It must adopt excellent design guidance, requires proactive land use planning. It must measure progress, sets criteria for choosing projects, and creates a plan for implementation, which is actually the highest. The plan for implementation is actually the highest scoring with 15 points available. Going to delve a little bit more into the policy, into some of the different aspects that helped us score so high, but just, I think we're all pretty familiar with Complete Streets policies and what Complete Streets is at this point, but just a summary of what we really saw as Complete Streets meaning for Howard County. It's really a mindset. It's a mindset that ensures that our streets accommodate all people and all modes. And it's a mindset that prioritizes safety on our streets. This is a definite departure from traditional roadway planning policy, which has, especially in America, which has usually prioritized movement of automobiles and the fast movement of automobiles and throughput of automobiles. So it's a big departure from that to say that our streets are for everybody and that safety is the #1 factor and criteria. So specifically in our policy, again, we followed the blueprint, the national framework, and we wanted to make sure that equity is a binding element throughout the process, throughout the policy, and throughout our design manual. So we had a great framework for that also. BMC has what they call the Vulnerable Population Index for transportation. We renamed it in Howard County. We use the same framework, just slightly adapted to Howard County to use Howard County jurisdictions as the denominator in the equation, meaning we're comparing our own census tracts against our own census tracts rather than region-wide. And we use the terminology, the equity emphasis areas. And this is what our map in Howard County looks like. The orange areas are have the highest score for equity need, meaning there is the highest populations that have vulnerabilities or need for emphasis for that transportation. This is based on factors such as households in poverty, non-car ownership households, low English proficiency, Hispanic or Latino population, individuals over 75, disabled individuals. So that gives us a scoring system, and we're able to use this to help us prioritize transportation projects throughout the county. We also developed new performance measures for prioritizing our transportation investments and for tracking our progress. Obviously, these performance measures are based on factors such as equity, mobility for all modes, safety. Notice I'm not talking about things like speed and throughput of automobiles. They're not in the performance measures criteria at all. It's all focused on access, equity, and safety. We also made sure we had well-defined process for exceptions to policy. Remember, that was one of the scoring criteria. So we very clearly spelled out if you're not following the Complete Streets policy and the design manual guidance, it has to be well documented. There's very few reasons or justifications why this can be. You must fit into those justifications. And that's going to lead to a policy that is not just down on paper, but is followed for all projects. So moving on to after we developed the policy itself, if you remember from the timeline, we had about a couple-year process for updating our design guidance. This was a lot of work. This was actually more work than developing the policy itself, because this is where all the details are in our design guidance. It's one thing to have a broad statement about safety being very important, but putting that into the design guidance that engineers use to design our roads is really where all the detail and all the work came in. So to do this, we developed a complete streets implementation team. This was a very broad group. We met often, 37 meetings in this 2-year time period. And this included obviously county staff, from DPW, our planning and zoning, transportation. We also had associated stakeholder groups like the school system, the Columbia Association. We had development community involved and on this team. So very broad group. And we utilize consultant services from WRA, Whitman Reichard, which have a lot of experience with complete streets policies and design guidance across the country. This was not an easy process. We had 981 total comments received and addressed through the Complete Streets Implementation Team comment log. This was a public log where we took comments and addressed comments. We had a lot of conflicting viewpoints along the way, and we had to constantly kind of go back to our policy and the national guidance and national standards to basically resolve a lot of our conflicting opinions, conflicting thoughts on what should go into our design manual. But we got there. We got there with our design manual updates being adopted by County Council and published in 2022. These guidances also include detailed steps for community engagement. And this is the guidance for our own traffic engineers that work for the county and also engineers and planners that work for the development community. There were a lot of changes in our design manual, so we knew it was important to have training both internally and externally. So we had 4 in-person training sessions in the spring of 2022, 2 sessions for county staff, 2 sessions designed for outside developers and their engineers. And we recorded all these sessions and posted them online so that anybody could take the training on their own time. We also turned them into video modules. So this was we have 9 training video modules that are available on the Howard County website for Complete Streets. This is basically our consultant, WRA, going through the various chapters of our Complete Streets Design Manual and really explaining what it all means and how engineers can use this guidance to design complete streets. We started discovering there were some additional education needs, just areas where we're getting a lot of questions about some of the new guidance. So one of the new requirements was that developers have to provide a multimodal transportation study whenever they submit their plans. This is basically a plan that shows potential future connections from the development sites to other off-site destinations. So it's not their site itself, but it's if they're within a certain distance of a school or a park or other attractors that are likely to attract walking and biking and transit trips, that they have to provide a plan that shows potential future connections. It doesn't mean the developer has to provide those connections immediately. So it's more of an aid to our overall planning process. But this was a totally new requirement to developers, and it applies to almost all development plans that come through the county, except for maybe very, very small ones. So we realized they needed a little extra guidance. It was in the design manual, this requirement. There was a little bit of detail in there, but we basically provided them with an interactive online guide with a map, and it's clickable, and it pretty much takes them through the process and shows them what the requirement is and helps them fulfill that requirement. We were also getting a lot of questions about street type selection. As part of our design guidance, we developed new street types that are very multimodal. Again, this is a big change for developers in particular, so we're getting a lot of questions about it. So we developed some extra guidance, and supplemental documents that really, with flow charts, that really takes them through that process. And then we've also been finding a lot of problems with MOT, maintenance of traffic, in particular for pedestrians and bicyclists. You know, when there's constantly work going on our roadways, whether it's road work, whether it's other work, utility work, other work around our roadways. And you'll notice that for people in automobiles, there's always good signage, good detours. You know, there's a very well-established practice for working people around any work in our roadways. Not much effort or guidance for MOT for pedestrians and bicyclists out there. So we're constantly seeing, you know, work trucks parked in our pathways, even detour signs for roadway work that are right in the middle of our sidewalks, blocking access to bus stops, blocking our sidewalks. When the work has really nothing to do with the sidewalk, there's no work going on the sidewalk, it's just signage for the work that's going on the roadway. So we are currently developing guidance in Howard County to try to get on top of that situation. It's going to be a pedestrian MOT field guide. So this is just to show that, you know, our work is not done with following up from our policy and our design manual. We're constantly finding these extra needs and resources that we're adding. And then looking forward, we've already had some great complete streets projects that have come out of our new design guidance. Probably the biggest one is on the Oakland Mills Road corridor in Howard County. We did a big road diet project last year to about 1.5 miles of roadway that added pedestrian crosswalks, protected bike lanes, and was a lane reduction, which greatly reduced travel speeds and made this much more of a community road rather than a high-speed highway running through a community. All transportation projects are now planned, designed, and managed to support complete streets. We really see this. We really, especially with our new hires, new engineers coming on board, you know, they're getting their Howard County training for the first time with the new design manual. So they're coming in without as many preconceived notions, with really a fresh mindset to soak all this up. So that's really helping as we see that new people coming in and the staff level of interest and engagement is really increasing. We have a big step that's initiating now to update our land development regulations. So these are the policies that really tell developers what needs to be included and what their scope of their projects is. And you know, we have the design guidance that's already there, which is kind of the how they design their roads. But the land development regulations really dictates what they need to design, looking at not just their own site, but their interactions with the community from their site. So it may be adjacent roadways and adjacent connections that we're looking at as well for them to contribute to complete streets. And overall, you know, this has been a long process. When we look at that timeline, it doesn't look that long. And really, when we look back at it now, we think 4 or 5 years of working on this, maybe it's not that long. Seemed long as we were going through it. But culture change is hard. It is changing mindsets, it's changing culture, but it is happening in Howard County. And then just a few additional lessons learned from our process. I know a lot of other jurisdictions are going through similar efforts. So community involvement is really essential. We had a broad group. We had as many people involved as we could, and we brought others in as needed. We brought in our fire department when we were talking about the sizing of our streets, because we wanted to make sure we weren't doing things to hamper their efforts. So, and then just the general public, you know, obviously being well documented, having everything online, having your public meetings, having different opportunities for engagement is really important. We gathered input from diverse groups. Again, that led to a much more difficult process than having like-minded people coming up with design guidance and coming up with policy, but we needed those diverse viewpoints to really make the policy stick. Study best practices and evolving design options. There are a lot of resources out there to use, and don't rush the process. It is going to take some time. So when you're setting this up and you're thinking about timelines, you know, nothing is going to get done, or not very much is going to get done in 6 months or even a year. You're probably looking at a multi-year process. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions.
So I'll start off, Chris, thank you. What Chris didn't mention is that Oakland Mills Road project that he referenced there, he just came back from Austin and the National Association of Counties, because that project and the outreach effort on that project and the design and implementation just got a national award for the transportation category. So that was a nice, double hit there. We got those notices of the National Coalition and the NACO award within a week or so of each other. But it's a lot of his efforts. It's a lot of referring back to the policy. So, the intentional efforts on the policy worked to both, the concerns of maybe traditional traffic, concerns and traffic engineers. When, the advocates would push really hard in one way, we go back to the policy and say, no, we all agreed on this. And it also worked, the other way around. And sometimes the advocates wanted to push really far and innovative, and we said, no, we said this in the policy, and that saved us a lot of, like, hey, we agreed before, let's keep agreeing. When it came time to take this council, because it did go to council, the policy and the design manual for their endorsement, there was some concerns, but nothing that really stuck too much, or there were some minor changes at the end. And that was very helpful because you saw 981 comments at the beginning. So just to echo everything that Chris said, that that coming down to the end and knowing that maybe there were some small tweaks helped. I know that is we're talking about this public comment versus our long range plan, and the advocates are saying different things. I mean, in this case, we had control over timeframes. We knew what we had to get done. It was kind of that all local driven, so that was very helpful. But thank you for doing the presentation. I'll shut up.
So in Baltimore County, we hope to do our first complete street in the next 18 months or so. So we'll be reaching out to see if we can get some best practices. Congratulations on your award. But it's exciting to see that, you all are paving the way for us to be able to just probably steal shamelessly.
Just make sure you get input as you steal shamelessly, so you can make sure everybody agrees.
So my bigger question is your input from the developers. That tends to be, the tug of war with us. How did you decide to include them in the process early on, and how many you would include early on to make sure that you had that balance and that buy-in from the development community?
Yeah, I mean, that actually was a bit of a worry for us as well, but it went smoother than we expected. So we had a member on our Complete Streets implementation team that was, kind of a leader from the development community. He's very involved with the Maryland Builders Association, and he was reporting back through those channels. He'd come to our meetings, he'd report back, he'd bring information from the development community through that group. So he had some areas of concern, but he followed the process very closely, and I think he saw that the requirements were reasonable and following best practices. Again, we kept going back to, we were not inventing anything new here. We were basically doing, implementing what the best of what's been happening in the United States. So I think that kind of guidance helped them realize that this is not new. This is not something that we were inventing or creating.
I guess along those same, along that line, so there is a policy. Are the developers required to follow it in terms of, with the, like you said, you're within so many miles of a school? Are they required to come up with that plan? Or is that something that it's kind of like, we'd like for you to do that, but it's not a requirement?
No, they're required, especially with the design guidance. They're required to follow the Howard County Design Manual, and those guidances are in there. Now, just to clarify, with the multimodal transportation study, it is just a study. They're required to, follow the steps that show those potential connections on a map, basically. They're not required to make those connections at this time. The requirements are all in the land development regulations, which we are going to be updating and looking at a little bit more offsite potential connections for them to be required to make.
So that could be harder.
That could be harder. Right now, they're required to develop their site, their own property, their own site, and also update any adjacent, any touching roadways, like fronting roadways, which is very typical.
Okay.
mean, the fact that the Horizon Foundation and their coalition were so focused on this and had gotten the public support out there. I think the developers also knew that like, hey, this is happening. So that kind of helped that. But I think certainty is the biggest thing for them, and knowing what they were going to do. Design manual update was due anyway. We was on that cycle, so this was just an opportunity to incorporate like some best practices. Yeah, we'll report back because we're about to start the next phase.
That was several months ago, and I saw the news from the Mako News, say, yay, it's suburban county. Best company street policy in the nation. That's very proud of.
Thank you. Hope to see more up there with us. Please join us at the top of that list.
All right, any other questions or comments from the board members? All right, thank you, Chris, great job. All right, is there any other business to come before BRTB today?
Chair, currently, we do not have any other business before the board.
All right, hearing none, I will call for a vote to close the meeting. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, the next meeting for BRTB will be held on August 22nd. Thank you all so much.